Hey everybody, welcome to another live stream of Q&A here on Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern Time, brought to you by Junk Removal Authority. I am Lee Godbold with Junk Removal Authority, where we help junk removal business owners make more money and live a better life. So on these Q&A sessions, this is the second time we've done these, at least recently. So it's the second week in a row we've done these Q&A sessions. So the way this is going to work is we can talk about anything you guys want to go into. So if you have some questions, just post them and Matt will read them out and I'll get to them. In the meantime, while we're waiting on some of those questions to come in, a lot of what we're actually going to be doing is analyzing some Google Ads accounts. So if you guys are actively running Google Ads now, or maybe you've even run them in the past, and you'd like to share the information of your ads on your Google Ads account, just the main statistics. Matt, I think, is going to put something up on the screen right now. You guys can email him, matthew@junkra.com. We've listed out some of the information. You should be seeing it on the screen right now to be able to kind of analyze an account. And if you guys join us live, if we have any other questions, we might be able to fire them off to you and you might be able to kind of answer them. When you send that information over, I'm not asking for access to your ads account. Sometimes people want to, we'll want to share them, and we've got an account right now we've actually got access to that we'll be able to look at. But we're not asking for that. If we, one thing we're not going to do is we're not going to disclose your company name unless you disclose it. So if you disclose your name and your company name throughout the chat, then people would have that information. But other than that, we're not going to disclose any company names. We're not going to say who this information is. We don't even have to say your city. So if you disclose the city, which probably isn't a big deal, but if you decide to disclose the city, we can do that. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to ask you your population size. That way people have an idea of what size area that we're talking about. The way I've got an idea when I'm trying to find areas of opportunity on the account, like what's the max potential, what's the max size of your area. So anyway, that information, you can send it over to matthew@junkra.com. Before we roll into some questions and we start looking through a couple accounts that we've already got in front of us, if you guys... The reason we're doing these shows and we're analyzing these Google Ads accounts is to educate you on kind of what goes into properly running these. When they set up a Google Ads account, their initial thought is, hey, just turn these things on, you pay Google some money, you trust Google and setting it up right, you might go the smart campaign route, and you just think you're just going to turn it on, pay the money, and leads come in. And it's really much more complex than that. So what we want to do is we want to show you actually what goes into it. If you decide you want to try and manage some of the stuff on your own, then this will give you a lot of that great information. So especially if you watch these things all the time, like over a period of time, you're going to be gleaning some really good stuff. If you decide, probably, which is the smart business thing, that you don't really have the time to put towards this to become an expert at it, and you'd like to work with us, then head on over to junkra.com. We'd be happy to manage your Google Ads account, your digital marketing, provide websites, all that kind of stuff for you. All right, so we should have given enough time for people to jump on. So let's go ahead and roll into some accounts. This first one I've got is actually located in Canada. So some of the figures we're going to be talking about are Canadian dollars. And the exchange rate, I think, is something like roughly like 25%, 30% less. So if we talk about something being $100 in Canadian dollars. Here, we can look that up right now. What's 100 CAD to USD? I was pretty close. So 100 Canadian dollars equals $73, 73 US dollars. So that's something we got to keep in mind. The numbers we're going to be talking about here will be larger simply because of the exchange rate. So this particular company, again, up in Canada, they've got a budget of $275 a day, 275 CAD budget. That's good. That's a good marker right here. This thing works good. A lot better than what we've been using in the past. Let's see. They've got a click-through rate of 5%. Got impression share numbers of 47, 40, 15. So again, what this is, that's 47% overall impression share, 40% top impression share, 15% absolute top. So they're showing 47% of the time out of all eligible searches. they're showing 40% of the time up top. So you only got like a 7% difference between these two numbers. And then they've got a 15% where they're overall the very top position, number one. So I'm curious as to why that they're missing out on the percentage. So the next thing we look at is their 10% is being lost due to budget, 15% lost due to rank. So a couple things that I noticed like jump right off the bat when I'm looking at these numbers. One, the click-through rate's a little low. Would love to see that be higher. It doesn't surprise me when looking at a 5% click-through rate that they're actually missing out on 50% due to rank. One of the factors that when Google is determining the quality score of your keywords, and basically the higher the quality score, the less cost per click you actually have to pay for a given ranking, is expected click-through rate. So I actually have access to this campaign, so I'm gonna jump into this campaign. And I'm gonna about bet if we get into some keywords that we have some low quality scores because of expected click-through rate. A few of them, like the junk removal keyword is actually pretty good. So you measure quality scores on a scale of 10. The actual junk removal keyword is a 7 out of 10. It's not bad. 7 out of 10 is like considered okay. Like sometimes that's about as good as you're really going to get without a ton of work, and then you get like to 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Very seldom will you ever see a 10 out of 10 unless it's your company name. So like a branding campaign, if you're junk doctors like we are, for the keyword junk doctors within the branding campaign, that's generally going to be a 10 out of 10. So in this case, junk removal services is kind of low. Junk removal near me is low. We got like 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. If we look, expected click-through rate actually isn't quite as bad as I thought it would be. Most of them are considered to be average. So it's a little bit interesting information. So what's holding them back, and actually on the low ones, expected click-through rate is below average. So one of the ways to get the expected click-through rate up is actually to get the click-through rate up. And one of the ways to get the click-through rate up is adjusting ad copy. So you go in and you run tests to try and change things up, change up your headlines and your descriptions, trying to get people to actually click on your ad more often. The quickest way is oftentimes just to raise your bids. And when I look right here at 50% lost due to rank, that I immediately think, hey, we might need a bid increase here. Plus, we need to try and work on bringing up this click-through rate. So the other thing I'm curious on, they have a $275 a day budget. Let's see if they're actually spending that. Because the loss due to rank, the search impression share lost due to rank isn't necessarily quite, and the click-through rate isn't necessarily as important if they're hitting their daily budget. It's important, but it's not necessarily as important. And also bid increases might not be the best thing if they are limited by budget, which Google's telling me they are. Let's actually do a little bit of math here and find out if that's the case. And they are. So just straight up raising up bids here might not be the best thing. You might need a budget increase before you actually would want to raise your bids up here some. So the one number that I don't have listed up here that I forgot to actually list is the cost per conversion, and it's at $99. So again, US dollars, that's about 70. So let's stick that over here. So we got a $99 cost per conversion. I'm going to just translate this. That is about a $70 US dollar cost per conversion. That way you guys just kind of have an idea. And it helps me think about it also, because when you're managing Canadian accounts, the numbers, you got to think about the numbers a little bit differently, obviously, than the majority of accounts that we manage, which are US dollars. Okay, so what I'm looking at right now as I go through this is, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in and I'm going to try and improve some of the ad copy, some of the click-through rates, because I'd like to get the quality scores on some of those keywords up. That'll actually help us improve our overall rank. So in this case, what you would do is, and I know you guys can't see my screen because we don't want to share any of this stuff, but you're going to pop into ads, and in your ads, we've got three different responsive search ads per ad group, and I'm going to find the lowest performing one, or the lowest two performing ones potentially, and I'm going to go in there and we're just going to create different ad copy. So we utilize ChatGPT on some of this stuff, so we go in and we give it some prompts. We've developed some prompts to get kind of some different creative ad copy. and we'll insert that in. ChatGPT is never going to give you things just right. So, but it gives you some ideas you wouldn't otherwise come up with. So we'll insert those in there. I like using keyword insertions and location insertions. Basically what keyword insertions are doing is they're going to display the exact thing that the searcher typed into Google. It's going to pop up in your ad copy. Location insertion, it's going to say, hey, this person's located in this area. If it's Apex, North Carolina, which is where our office is, which is a smaller town outside of the Raleigh metro, it's going to display like junk removal Apex NC. So I like making sure those are in there, and then the rest of the stuff we're going to kind of do sort of creative ad copy and stuff like that. So that's the very first thing I'm going to do to try and raise up those click-through rates. The other end of things that we want to do is, I haven't looked at this account to go through search terms. So always remember search terms. We want to check that off. Because here's the deal. They're spending their budget. They have a low click-through rate. It's possible that maybe they have some possibly broad matches turned on. We never want broad match on these Google Ads campaigns for junk removal. You want it generally to be exact match and phrase match. Broad match can bring in tons and tons and tons and tons of unrelated keywords. You'll get a ton of stuff for trash removal, for scrap metal prices, for trash schedule, and just stuff that it seems like it's completely unrelated to trash. Google just throws it in there. And what's going to happen when that occurs is, one, you're going to wind up spending money on unnecessary keywords. Also, your click-through rate is going to look a lot lower because the ads you're actually displaying are not relevant to the searches that people are using. So Google is going to recommend, they want you on broad match all the time, because I want everybody to remember what does Google want ultimately? They want you to spend as much money as possible. So I'm even going to just highlight this here. Google wants you to spend money. So the purpose to spend as much money as possible. The purpose of you managing a Google's Ads account or your ads manager is we're trying to actually give Google as little money as possible while allowing you to make as much money as possible. Sometimes people want to trust Google. Google exists to extract as much money as possible from their advertisers, and they're very good at it. To the tune of $200 billion or 250, I think it was right around $200 billion in revenue last year generated from the Google Ads platform. You might want to double check that, but I believe that's the last figure I saw. So it's crazy amount of money that people get from it. Amazon's the largest spender. They spend $50 million a year, and majority of it comes from small businesses though. So we want to give them as little as possible while helping you get as much. All right, so if we pop in here on the search terms, I'm not going to go through all these search terms right now, but one of the first things I want to do is, hey, I want to establish our baseline. So I want to sit there and say, we're just showing for junk removal, for hot tub removal, for hoarding clean out, for estate clean out, for deck demolition, if you offer some demolition campaigns, or maybe shed removal, junk hauling. Those are the things we want to make sure. If we come in there, we're seeing garbage removal, even hauling services, I like excluding that. If we're seeing those types of keywords and they're generating clicks, I'm going to fix the search terms before I do anything else, and then we're going to figure out what our baseline is. Let's make the assumption the search terms are okay on this campaign, and then we can actually talk about some of the numbers that we might want to do. All right, so we've already addressed one of the things on trying to fix the overall click-through rate. The conversion rate is at 18%. So let's put this in here, 18% conversion rate. What we want as a conversion rate is generally, that's on the bottom end of okay. Honestly, I love seeing conversion rates in the 20s, mid-20s, especially once they've switched over to Target CPA, which, by the way, this campaign is on Target CPA. So that's good. Now again, Target CPA bid strategy is an automated bid strategy. You can't start out on Target CPA when you first get started. We generally recommend people start out on manual CPC, actually enhanced manual CPC, and you're gonna have to manually adjust the bids at the start, and what you're trying to get is 30 conversions within 30 days. Once you have that, then Google has enough data for you to switch over to Target CPA. And you're gonna set the Target CPA, generally I set it as to whatever Google recommends initially. So in this case, it might recommend $75 Target CPA or whatever, or I guess $90. And you switch it over, and then as long as you've got good conversions coming in, then you just start working that Target CPA down up until the point it quits converting or the quality goes way down or whatever. So at an 18%, we're at the couple things we've got going on here is we're at the high end of, this is, remember, Canadian dollars. We're at the high end of a cost per conversion. We're actually higher than I'd like the cost per conversion to be. So we want to bring that down. We are hitting our budget. So that tells me we probably can actually lower this target CPA and maybe make this a bit more efficient for this guy. Knowing though, the problem is when we do that, we're going to lose out more due to rank, and there's not a ton of opportunity on loss due to budget. So basically what we're going to have to do is we would have to talk to this individual and say, hey, what's most important to you? Would you rather spend less and lower this, or spend more and be shown more often? But if we're going to get shown more often, we need to raise our budget. So in this case, let's say he wants to leave the budget alone. I'm going to pop in there. The target CPA on this campaign is set at 80 Canadian dollars, so there is a little bit of a difference there. Although I'm looking at it over a 7-day time frame. Let's look at it over 30 days. Before you make target CPA changes, you want to make sure you're looking at things over at least a 30-day time frame, just to see if we had some sort of a random anomaly. So it's a little closer. The target CPA, I guess, has apparently been lowered at one point. The average target CPA is 85. The actual CPA it's received over a 30-day time frame is 92. So it's pretty close. But I think what I would do on this campaign is I would do about a 10% decrease on the target CPA. So I'd lower it about $8. I'd lower it down to 72. Give it a week to 2 weeks to see what kind of effect it actually has. And if it has a good effect, then great. But overall, what I'm really going to be looking for on this guy long term is him to actually raise his budget up. So that's probably one of the first things I would look at. There's not a ton of other numbers that necessarily really concern me, I think. The impression share numbers, again, 46, 38, 13. We're talking about lowering the target CPA. The one piece of information I don't have from him is average job sale. So if he has an average job sale and he's profitable with where it's at, I would actually probably go the other direction. Which would be raising it up, because his most of opportunity is missed out on rank. So let's back up what I said before. Instead of lowering that target CPA, let's verify he's charging enough on an average job sale. And if so, we're going to raise that up and see what kind of effect it has. Ultimately, in this case, it's up to the advertiser whether he wants to spend more money or not. What you got, Matt?
We got a question from Udesh Pereira, who's from the UK. He said he just started doing Google Ads last week. He's received 4 calls so far, and he spends £500 per month, which is 611 USD, according to his budget. How long will it take to work? He is a bit scared.
All right, so he's a 611 US dollar budget. How long has he been doing it? I think he said a month.
Yeah. Oh, last week.
He started last week?
Last week.
So 611, assuming he shows 30 days out of the week, that's $20 a day. And we're going to have to do this in US dollars. I can't think about pounds. All right, and my question here is do you have any experience with this, and are you actually using an advertising agency, and what type of campaign are you actually using? Because the question is how long is it going to take to work? Like, it might not work if you're not with an agency that has a good reputation, knows what they're doing, is actively managing this stuff. Because, and also I'll add, like in the US, $611, you might not as well even do Google Ads at this point. Most areas, you really need it's really like $2,500 to $3,000 a month is where you need to be. Now, some areas you could be like $1,500 if it's less populous, so more rural. Maybe $2,000, but when you start getting much below $2,000, most areas of the U.S., you need to wait till you can actually get to a $2,000 a month budget before you really even start it. So the key things on Google Ads campaigns, let's cover that right now. So for those of you guys that have never run before, I think I'm pretty much done with this. I wish we could show more of this stuff, but we just can't release a lot of confidential details on these accounts. If I could actually share my screen, I think it'd be a lot more valuable to everybody. because they can actually see me going in and doing these things. But hopefully you can follow along. You kind of learn the logic behind it if you're looking at the campaigns. So what do you need to do in order to get a Google Ads campaign to work? Well, you've got to show for the right search terms. Everything good?
Yep.
Okay. Show for the right search terms. All right. So that means let's cover a few of those. What are some of the good search terms you want to show for? Junk removal is a big one. And then it's like junk removal in your city and all too. And then the individual suburbs. Junk hauling. Let's see. Hot tub removal. Let's pull up a few others here. If you do demolition work, you'll show up for some of that. Oh, obviously junk pickup. In Canada, probably in the UK, rubbish removal. And then it's like junk removal near me, junk hauling service, like commercial junk removal. You can search cubicle removal, office junk removal. Like those are the kind of things that you're going to want to show for. And you're going to wind up with an initial list of probably like, for companies been doing it a while, you know, our base keyword list, adding all the cities, it's going to be like 50 or 60. And then over time, you're going to add to that. So you're going to be going through search terms and you're going to find relevant search terms for your area. Oftentimes it's like little towns and municipalities that we don't set up initially. Those are going to get added in, and then you're going to exclude a ton of keywords. So even though if you're on phrase match or exact match, it's still going to bring in some stuff that isn't really relevant, and we want to exclude that. And then sometimes you're also going to find there are certain keywords in your market that don't do great. For example, furniture removal in a lot of markets is not a great keyword. You would think it would be, but what we find is a lot of people that are typing in furniture removal are actually looking for donation centers to come by and pick them up for free. So they're not great. You want to show for the correct ones, and then you want to make sure you don't show for bad ones. And this is almost more important. What are some? If you're in California, Recology, that pops up there. Your local municipalities. Even sometimes, like this is one that's iffy. I'll put a star beside it, but curbside junk pickup or bulk pickup, like you would think, or bulk pickup we normally show for, but like bulky item removal. A lot of times the people are actually trying to search for curbside provided for free by their municipality. That's just a matter of actually testing. So we use something called CallRail. See if I can write it up here. We're going to figure out a way to organize this a little bit better, Matt. But CallRail is some software we use that'll actually tell you exactly where the call's coming from. When somebody comes on your website, it's either organic, direct, or Google Ads. What you want to do is on your Google Ads calls, it can actually display what keyword was used. So if you get some for bulky item removal on some of these, you want to listen to them. And it's over a long period of time. I mean, it might be months that you listen to these calls. And you find out, hey, do they actually book or not? Or is the vast majority of them for keywords related to like the municipality picking stuff up? So some of the big ones, it's garbage, any sort of garbage related stuff, even trash. Like garbage and trash removal, you can work on targeting that organically, but don't do it for paid because the vast majority of searches are going to be for people that are wanting like trash can, regular garbage, weekly pickup service is what you're going to see out of these keywords. So there is junk removal jobs to be had, but targeted organically rather than targeting it for your paid campaigns because it's just going to be a waste. I do not like targeting competition. And some guys just, they want to target the competition. And oftentimes when we run Google Ads campaigns, if I search junk doctors here in North Carolina, there's going to be a handful of companies that pop up that are targeting our name, trying to kind of steal business from us. Here's the deal though, when you conquest. When you conquest, most people that search for junk doctors, they're looking for junk doctors. So they're looking, they've used us before, they've been referred over, they've already scheduled an appointment, and they're looking to move one around. Like, it's very hard to steal a customer from your got junks, your college hunks, your junk kings, so on and so forth. It's just difficult to do. Could you do it? Yeah, definitely. But what's going to happen is you're going to wind up spending so much money trying to conquest that you're going to lose money. And I'm talking hundreds of dollars, hundreds, if not $1,000 or more to land one job off of conquesting your got junk or college hunks or junk doctors, especially really established companies. So it's not profitable. And then also it's taking away budget from the keywords that we want to show for. You know, the 50 keywords that we want to show for or whatever, it's taking away budget from. So it's a poor use of funds. You pay a lot more per click when you try and conquest also, because Google knows you're not your competition. So, you know, you might pay $30 a click, whereas you might pay $12 a click for these good keywords over here. So I don't recommend conquesting. Scrap metal removal. These are some you don't want to show for. Basically, it's just stuff that junk cars. And there are literally thousands. If you look at the Junk Doctors campaigns, there's probably like 8,000 negative keywords on that campaign, give or take a few thousand. So it's a big deal getting these negative keywords right. Going through search terms on a weekly basis, bi-weekly minimum, is very important. If it's a brand new account, it should be at least a week, if not a few times a week. The more times you go through search terms and eliminate bad keywords and add new keywords, that's also going to help raise up your click-through rate. And when you raise up your click-through rate, quality scores go up. You convert more people that actually come to your page because that's actually what they're looking for. And overall, your cost per conversion goes down. Your conversions go up. And this is a long process. So if you hired a ads agency with a good reputation that knows what they're doing, maybe they've got some experience in the junk removal industry, what we normally say to tell people is like, hey, the first month, there's no telling what you're going to see. You might get very little out of it in the first month. The second month, it should be getting better. You should be seeing things kind of improve. You're getting some money in. Things are going a lot better. By the end of the third month, we hope to be in a good position with the campaign, and it's going to continue improving generally over the first 6 months, a decently noticeable amount. Past that 6-month time frame, if we've been doing everything that we need to do, then it's still, if the competition changes what they're doing, we have to recognize it and then react accordingly. This time of year, a lot of times what happens is people's volume is going down and they're wanting to get more business. So initially what they do is they actually start raising bids up and they raise their budget up, trying to squeeze out more money. What happens is the cost for everybody rises, and some of the companies are going to get scared and they're going to lower budget and lower bids and might even stop Google Ads altogether. And then those of us that, you know, we've got some courage to hang in there and we've got the funds to hang in there, then we're sitting pretty throughout the rest of the winter. Not that winter's pretty for any junk removal companies, but the cost will go back down. So that's we are in the midst of that right now. Some areas the cost is going up, the cost per click is going up because people are trying to get more out of. They're trying to extract the same amount of stuff or more, even though there's less kind of going into the bucket. They're trying to get the same amount out. So that's what's going on right now. It'll generally last like 3 weeks. Then people will get scared. They'll get their senses back to them, and it'll get cheaper for everybody that kind of advertises. So let's keep on. All right, are you showing for the correct search terms? Are you not showing for the ones you don't want to show for? Those are two of the most important things right there. Outside of that, there's a lot of other things, but those are very important. But is your ad copy good, where people are actually going to click on it? Are you using the right bidding strategy? Are you updating bids? So are you looking at your impression share numbers, your click-through rates, and are you changing bids to see what type of effect that has, especially on a brand new campaign. All that's super, super, super important. So again, the answer to your question is if you're using a good agency or you really know what you're doing, then I mean you should be seeing some good traction by month 2. Month 3, you should be starting to feel pretty good about things. And it's the first 6 months. There's still a lot of changes that kind of really go on. Google Ads is not extremely profitable, like in the immediate, like right now, for most people. It's the long term, the lifetime value of customers that leave reviews, that refer you to others, and that reuse you. That's where it is super, super valuable. 50% of searchers are going to click on Google Ads, 50% go organic. Organic's amazing, it's excellent, but you're missing out on half of your prospects if you're not doing ads. You do ads, you get your average job sale up high enough where you're at least making a little bit of money, and then you look at it with a long-term viewpoint. Whereas, hey, I'm getting in front of people, I'm impressing them, and the 3 R's are really going to kick in then. Great question there. So, we don't currently work with anybody in the UK. You need a little bit higher of a budget before we would consider working with you on it. But if you'd like to, and if you've got the ability to have a higher budget, feel free to shoot us a message. We can kind of look and see if it's something that we would like to do, and we see if we can help you out. I'm not 100% dead set on going into the UK because we've got no experience there and things are a little different, but we might be able to work something out and try it out. What we got there, Matt?
A question from Alex Valencia. He says, how much ROI should you be receiving from a $2,500 a month budget, and how much should your average job cost be?
Well, your average job cost, so the factors, how to determine pricing, we have a couple different questions here, and I'm going to jump right into how to determine what you charge. If you're in an area where Got Junk or Junk King is, we've got a formula where we look at disposal fees and labor cost and all that kind of stuff. But one of the easiest things is guys like Got Junk knows what they're doing. So call them up, figure out what the pricing is. And then generally, I like being priced similarly to your Got Junks, to your Junk Kings, more than Junk King normally. You just got to make sure that your brand image, the truck you're using, the uniforms, the website that you have, like all of that, looks just as good. And as long as it looks just as good, you can charge just as much as they do. Maybe you come in a slight bit less. I really don't think it's necessary at this point. We charge pretty much what Big Blue does in our market. We've been around a while, but even new companies we work with, we have some that come in and they start out as much, if not even, a few of them start out even more. So, that's no issue there. But what you're looking for here, what should your AJS be? And what's the return? And I'll even add what's the return. Ideally, you're going to get a 4 to 6x return on Google Ads. Now, some people get more, some people get less. This is not immediate, though. When you launch a Google Ads campaign for your first month, 2 months, 3 months, you most likely will not see a 4 to 6x return. Now, hopefully by month 4, you're flirting with that 4x return. Where this really benefits is when these people start reusing you. But let's look at it right now. Like immediate after 6 months, and hopefully it's sooner, but after 6 months, hopefully that's what you're seeing. Because now you've had a chance to actually build this campaign up and get it working right to allow you to get this type of return. Now what your average job sale needs to be is largely going to be a factor So your needed AJS is going to be determined by your cost per conversion and your phone closing rate. Or not just phone closing rate, but just your closing rate in general. So for example, a lot of people close about like if you're doing decent on the phones, out of all the leads you get off Google Ads, you might close about 40% of them. So for example, let's say you come in here and you've got a cost per conversion of $50. If you've got a $50 cost per conversion, and let's say you close, for simplicity's sake, let's just say it's 50% of the leads you get in, which you're probably not going to do, but you'll be somewhat close maybe if you're really good on the phone. Then that's going to put you at $100 cost per job. So what we're going to want this number to be, if we want to, let's say we're shooting for a 25% a 4x return, then you know what you're going to need is about a $400 AJS here. Now most areas of the country, one, you're not going to close 50%. Two, a lot of areas of the country are going to be over this $50 cost per conversion. So most areas of the country need a minimum AJS of 400 to run ads. But let's say you've got a, say we've got a $75 cost per conversion. And there's some areas like in California and all that'll have this. $75 cost per conversion. If you book, you know, it'd be $150 if you book 50% of them. So at that point, you're gonna need like what, a $600? You would need about a $600 AJS at this amount. And we have quite a bit of clients that have a $600 AJS if they're in these competitive markets where you'd have this. Now listen, sometimes you are not going to get a 4x return because a lot of Google Ads, a lot of what you actually wind up spending is based on the competition in your area and how much they're willing to spend. So there's a portion of it that sometimes if you want to play the Google Ads game, it's just going to be pricier. Now as a general rule, it's not going to be sustainable if people are not hitting that profitability number. So if you just last longer than them, you'll sort of be okay. And that's when you're really going to rely on repeat customers coming in, commercial business, nextdoor.com, the Facebook post, realtors. Like that's why yard signs can be huge if you guys just get a ton of yard signs out. So what I tell people is Google Ads is excellent. You've got to supplement it with other stuff because it's going to allow you to build a really big business. And it will allow you to build a big profitable business, but it takes time because you really have to have the lifetime value that kicks in. In the meantime, you got to be doing everything else within your power to generate as many other jobs outside of Google Ads as possible. And obviously, really good SEO, which can take, that can take years now to get a huge volume of traffic on SEO. And you never do it also, but if you can hit on the SEO side of things, that's excellent. And then all this stuff starts really, really working well. 4 to 6x is what we search for, but it's not overnight. So I want everybody to understand that. This is a strategy for you if you want to build a long-term, really good business. You got to be kind of tough at the starting point, especially now because it is more competitive. Great question there, though, guys. I think it would be kind of neat to show here. Talking about AJS. So if you've got a $50 cost per conversion, and a 50% close rate, then you need that $400 AJS. We talked about 75. equals $600 AJS. And then we've got some areas of the country that we see like $25 cost per conversions. And in that case, you only need like 50. It would be like what 250, something like that. I think 50 divided by, let's see, no, 200. So, and you know, nobody in the country has a $200 AJS anymore if they have a decent pricing structure and they kind of know what they're doing. We do have guys like right here that are at like $25 cost per conversion, and some of them are actually getting like a ton of conversions. And you know, a lot of them have like a $500 or $400 or $500 AJS. So like they're killing it. They're making at that point, you know, excellent returns, far exceeding 6x. But most areas of the country, that 4 to 6x is all you're really gonna be able to shoot for. What's up, Matt?
So Alex followed up. He said he's averaging $25 to $30 per conversion. He gets about 50 leads a month, and he closed about 30%.
All right, give me that one more time.
All right, he's averaging $25 to $30 per conversion.
30 cost per conversion.
He gets about 50 leads a month.
Yep.
And he closes just about 30%.
Closes 30%.
He just bumped up his prices because he wasn't making enough to keep his ads going, and his minimum is $99.
Yeah, that minimum's a little old, but the minimum doesn't scare me as much. I really like to know like the full load rate is, the half load rate, all that kind of stuff. I would look to see that. Now, what I don't know is that a phone closing rate of 30%, or is that an overall closing rate in terms of actually following through and getting the job done and getting paid. One of the things to remember on phones, and a big portion of the success of your Google Ads campaign is going to be how good are you actually on the phone. So when you on your phone calls, make sure you control the call. And you don't allow the customer to control the call. And then we've got a process that we follow. So step 1 is the intro. Step 2 is info gathering. Step 3 is info giving. Step 4 is confirmation. And the way this works right now, let's say somebody's calling you up is, hey, thanks for calling Junk Doctors. This is Lee. How can I help you? And somebody's going to say, yes, I'd like to know how much you charge for junk removal. I'd be happy to you know, get that information, or happy to get you that information. Tell me though, what's your name, and what area you're located in, and how soon are you looking to get this done? I'll say, yeah, my name is Matt. I'm in Cary, which is right outside of Raleigh. I'm in Cary, and I'd like it done just as soon as possible. We'd say, okay, Matt, that's great. And what kind of stuff do you have? I got a garage we need to get cleaned out, and up in the attic, we've just got a handful of furniture items and some odds and ends, and I have like an old TV in my living room that I like hauled out because we just got a new one. Be like, okay, Matt, well, the great thing is that's something we can definitely assist you with. And the way our pricing works is we charge based on the amount of space your items take up in our truck. So our trucks are 8 feet wide, 10 feet long, 5 foot high. That's 15 cubic yards, or equivalent to about 6 pickup truck loads. The pricing starts at a minimum charge of $150. It goes up to a full load rate of $675. And once we get on site, we're going to take a look at everything you have. We're going to provide you with a no obligation quote right then and there, no obligation price or price range right then and there. And as long as we get the thumbs up from you, our team is actually going to load everything right then and there. If for some reason you decide, hey, I don't want to proceed, it is no obligation. So we simply go on our way, and then you're kind of done with us. So I know you want it done as soon as possible. We've actually got an opening this afternoon, Nick or Matt. We could be there as soon as 4 to 6 arrival time. And then, you know, you might add a secondary one in there too, or if that doesn't work, I've also got a 10 to 12 arrival time tomorrow. Which one of those 2 time slots might work for you? And then at that point, you have gone directly from you're basically going through the booking here. So I skipped a step here, guys. It's been a little while since I've done the phone training here. So it's a 5-step process. The next one is booking, and the 5th is confirm. What's really important is you go directly from info giving into beginning the booking of the appointment. Don't pause here. It's like once you explain pricing, do not pause. That's like the worst possible time to pause. Continue to go into assuming the close and beginning the booking process. Like assume it's already done. And then at that point, if they say, well, I tell you what, before we schedule, let me check with my wife or my husband. Be like, Matt, totally understand that. We do have some limited availability. It just so happens we've got these couple time slots that are open right now. Why don't we go and get your information now and get you on the calendar? And then after you speak with her, if she decides, hey, that doesn't work, hey, just give us a call right back. We can get you moved around, all that kind of stuff, or cancel you off, whatever you need. But at least you've got an appointment 100% scheduled, and that way we make sure you get taken care of. And you'll be amazed how often that works. So super, super important to really know how to do the phone. You can have the best ads account in the world. If you suck at closing it on the phone, and if you suck at closing it on site, the ads campaign is going to suck. And you're not going to last in business either. So you are in a sales business right now. Whether or not you guys want to be a salesperson, you are a salesperson. As soon as you started a junk removal company, you do not own a company that goes out and hauls trash and junk. You own a marketing and sales company. And your survival and how well you're going to thrive is going to depend on how well you market and how well you sell. So you best practice it and learn how to do that. Our video training series that we've got is amazing at going over all this stuff. The stuff on actually selling on site, we've got role plays and actual like job footage. And selling on the phone is worth its price in gold. So Matt can put the link right there on actually buying that VTS. Listen, it's not cheap, guys, but it's not super expensive, and it's cheap if you look at the amount of value that's provided. That little bit right there, like that's just a fraction of what we just gave. It gives you a lot of great repetition, and you can also allow your team members, if you guys have employees, you can allow your team members actually to use it as well. So practice up on those phone skills. The success of your ads campaign depends on it.
Got some numbers from Alex.
Excellent. Before we get those, one more thing on ad. Ads campaign success depends on one, a strong ads campaign. You show for the right things, you don't show for the wrong things, and you bid the right amount. So that's where it starts. The next thing is a strong website. A strong website helps build your brand, and it converts. Little tidbit here. The cheapest website is the most expensive website. The cheapest website is the most expensive website because it is going to convert less, and it is not going to help anybody remember who you are, remember your brand, and understand that you're a premium service. A $500 or a $200 website is going to be more expensive than a $5,000 or even a $10,000 website. And we've got some customers. We have one customer in particular, and I remember us, like before we started JRA, this has been 7 years ago, we paid $16,500 for a website. We got a customer, not through us, he had a custom website design done. He works with us on every other service but web, and he paid like $22,000 for that website. That guy will do like $2.5 million this year, his 5th year in business. A lot is because his website and his brand is super, super, super strong. The cheapest website is the most expensive website. All right, what kind of numbers we got here, Matt?
So Alex says he has a full load price of $495. His full load $4.95. Half load is $3.25. His quarter load is $2.25, and his competitors are a lot cheaper than him.
Well, the good news is a $30 cost per conversion, full load rate of $4.95. I'm curious what his average job sale is. It's probably going to be, I'm going to guess, 350-ish, 325, 350. It'd be great if we had that information. But, you know, at a $30 cost per conversion, he said he was closing about 30% of those. So, let's see here. He has 100, I don't know what his conversion rate is, but a couple things we need to do is we need to try and improve on that 30% closing rate. That's going to be kind of really important here. But let's say if out of 100 conversions, if you got 100 conversions, it's gonna be $30 cost per conversion. It's gonna be $3,000 on 100 conversions. He's gonna close 30 of those. And if his average job sale is $350, that's a $10,500 in revenue. So $10,500 in revenue, spent $3,000 in that case. So 3,000. It's not going to be quite 4%. It's going to be a little over 3% there. So you're probably going to find with your current closing rate, if your current closing rate stays the same, you're going to need a, let's see, 3,000. Drawing a blank here, Matt. 3,000. So we need to get probably about 12. To get 4x, we need 12,000 in revenue. So 12,000 divided by 30 jobs. You're going to need that magic $400 AJS. So did we have an AJS from him yet?
He did not provide an AJS, I don't believe.
Okay, so, and everybody should know what their average job sale is. So you're going to need a $400 AJS with these, with 30% closing rate. Now, if you can bring this to a 40% closing rate, then all of a sudden, it'd be 40 jobs at that point. Would have spent 3,000 in revenue. Just by increasing that, let's say if you increased your closing rate up to 40%, everything else stayed the same, then now instead of 10,500 in revenue, you'd have 16,000 revenue if you closed 40%. And hopefully you can close 40%. Now, not everywhere in the country can. Some areas that people just cancel a lot more often. A couple things, if you want to be able to key to a high closing rate, we're going to have to kind of take our last questions now, Matt. So we got any last minute questions, guys? Bring them on. One, just answer the phone. That's number one. The second thing is control the call. Assume, I'll put assume the close in there. Use scarcity to your advantage. And book people as soon as possible. Book them ASAP. Even if they tell you, I just need it done in the next few weeks, try and get them on today. A little tidbit in the junk removal industry. You're going to close, if you can get them to schedule within 48 hours of them calling, you're going to close 90% of all jobs if booked within 48 hours. Beyond 48 hours, it's closer to 50%. So what that means, guys, what that means is you got to have enough trucks and you got enough people, and you got to be willing to work on weekends. You got to be willing to work until it's dark. Like, you got to do whatever you can to get people on the schedule now. So a saying that I like to use for our call center is book it now and figure it out. So book it now, figure it out later. I don't care how busy we are. If somebody needs a job done same day, we are going to exhaust every option we have to get them done on that same day, because we spend so much money on Google Ads. And I know that, hey, I'm not just turning down a $300 job now. I'm turning down thousands of dollars by turning down this one job because of lifetime value. Because this customer is going to reuse me oftentimes. They're going to refer me. And they're going to post an online review, which is going to allow others to choose to hire junk doctors or whatever your company is. Figure it now, or book it now and figure it out later. It's huge to me. Very, very, very important. You guys have to want this stuff. Junk removal is an industry where it's feast or famine. When it's time to feast, you better eat, because you're going to be getting hungry when it's famine time if you don't. Any last questions or anything? What we got?
We've got one question from Junk 180. Real quick before that, I do want to plug on November 2nd at 3 p.m. we have the calls webinar. So Lee's been talking about calls. If you're interested in signing up for that, there is a link in the description. The question from Junk 180 is, with geo-targeting for ads, there's always bleed over at the outer boundaries, people traveling, work in other cities, etc. Is it best to shrink the targeted area or eat the wasted ad spend?
Depends on how aggressive you want to be. It depends if you're limited by budget already and you're hitting your budget. I would look to shrink that down if you're not willing to raise your budget up. If you are not spending your daily budget on a regular basis, you're not limited by budget, then I would eat it at that point. Great, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody for tuning in for the second edition of this Junk Removal Q&A hosted by Junk Removal Authority. I am Lee Godbold with Junk Removal Authority, where we help junk removal business owners make more money and live a better life. If you guys are looking for junk removal digital marketing services or consulting, if you're looking to start a new company, head on over to junkarray.com. If you want a junk removal truck, head over to junkremovaltrucksforsale.com. Specialty Truck Bodies is there to hook you up. And if you guys are looking for somebody to help answer your phones, all booked up, we can get a link in there too. All Booked Up is our recommended call center provider for junk removal services. Again, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys found it valuable. Hope to see you back here next week, Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern Time on the Junk Removal Authority YouTube channel. See everybody soon.